Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Muy bienvenidos a todos. Muchas gracias por conectar. We will be getting started shortly. Thank you, everyone. We are waiting for everybody to come in. Muchas gracias. Gracias por los que están entrando. Estamos esperando que entren todos nuestros participantes. Es un gusto tenerlos con nosotros. Empezaremos pronto. Y una vez más, muchas gracias. So we're going to get started with our presentation. I'd like to introduce Ms. Anita Yusofian Adams. We're going to hand it over to her, and she is with the Kindergarten Readiness Program, along with her team that's here with us today. We're very honored to have you all with us. So Ms. Yusofian, welcome and take it away.
Thank you so much, Ms. Adekin. You're very welcoming. We're so happy to be here from the Kindergarten Readiness Program for our LD Central Tech Talks and more today. And you know you're in the right place if you're here for establishing rituals and routines for the early grades. And we're especially glad that you made the time to be here, because making time for what needs to be done is the first step for schedules and routines. Next page. And as you're probably used to, at the bottom of your Zoom screen is a world globe icon in the Zoom toolbar. Please click on the icon and choose either English or Spanish. If you don't choose one of the languages, sometimes that gives us technical issues. So please choose English or Spanish to be activated. Thank you. Next page. Okay. And today is a webinar, which means your cameras and your microphones are automatically turned off. If you do have any questions, though, we want to hear from you. And the question and answer section will be monitored and answered throughout the presentation. We hope that today that you take away at least one strategy that can help you set up routines in your home household. Next page. Objectives today. So here are our objectives. We want you to understand how everyday routines can help you and your child with social development, with reflecting on incorporating routines into your household to promote resilience in the family and in your child, and to give you specific strategies that you can use so that they can be successful and you can feel successful as a parent. Next page. So we're doing an inclusion activity right now. And the purpose of inclusion activities is we're all busy people. So we want to give us a chance to be present in the here and now during this workshop so that we can all take in the information. So I want you to take a moment right now to think about how you prepared your child for the first day of school. Just think about it. So chances are that you started thinking about how you prepared your child for school, probably at least a week ahead of time, if not more. And maybe you talked to their teacher about their teacher. Maybe they got to be introduced to them through Zoom beforehand. Maybe you talked to your child about the exciting things about school, making new friends, seeing old friends, and what kind of things they could expect. Maybe the night before you made them a special dinner or a special breakfast the morning of. Maybe you picked out their clothes and had it all ready, spread out for them so they knew exactly what they were gonna put on when they woke up in the morning. And why we do all of that is so our child can be ready and prepared for what to expect, because it gives the child and yourself as a parent a sense of control of what's going to happen for their first day of school. But sometimes we then forget to keep that kind of routine going for our child so that they will continue to know what to expect. And as parents, because you've already done this, we already know that you know how to prepare your child for what to expect. For example, did anyone's child go to school in their pajamas on their first day of school? No, of course not, because your child knows you taught them that they're going to get dressed, they're going to brush their teeth, brush their hair, pack a bag, all of those different things. They know what to expect, and you know how to teach them a routine. So today's focus is about making schedules and routines a consistent part of both you and your child's life. And that helps to make your child more successful at home and at school. Because at school, teachers have routines that they have in place every day so that your child can be a successful student and a successful learner. Great. Thank you for participating with that. Now, Wendy is going to review the next section on the next page.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Wendy Correas, and I am a psychiatric social worker, part of the kindergarten readiness team. So we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into routines and procedures. And a wonderful question that we already got in the chat box is this just for kindergarten? And no, it's not. We're going to have a conversation around how routines and schedules are important for not only our little learners, but really a lot of the information transcends to our older children as well. So although we are going to focus a little bit more in our earlier years on our younger students, all of the activities really are transferable to students of any age. So on the next slide, we are going to have a conversation about what are some of the benefits of having routines and schedule for your child. So I'm going to invite you to take a moment and think, what are some of these benefits that they have? What is something that you've seen that's been really positive for your child when you implement schedules and routines? Anita had mentioned earlier of how our students were able to attend school their first day, and most likely they were not in pajamas, they were ready to go. And what we know the benefits of having these routines and schedules is that when students start to enter school, especially for the first time, it can be different because they have to follow rules with everybody. The rules look a little different, and we want to make sure that we're helping them with that transition. So in the next slide, we're going to go a little bit deeper and having that conversation. And before so, we are going to look at what is the difference between a schedule and a routine. So sometimes we use both of these words interchangeably. But how it's helpful for me when I think about schedules and routines is the schedules are our big picture. What do we do throughout the whole day? They help keep us in line to make sure that we're following what we need to follow and achieve whatever we need to achieve to get done for that day. Routines are those small steps that we do in order to complete our schedule. So some of our routines might be a little bit different, and that's okay. Maybe we wake up in the morning and the first thing we do is throw water on our face and brush our teeth. Maybe some of us, first thing we want to do is eat because we don't like to eat right after we brush our teeth because it tastes a little funny. So we might want to eat first and then we brush our teeth. So the routines, the way that they're in line, don't necessarily have to be in a perfect order. But what we do know is that those are those small steps that keep us in line and making sure that we are following our schedule for the day. So we're going to dive again a little deeper into the benefits of having these routines. And we're going to talk about routines first. So the first benefit of having a routine set at home is that they help children to feel very secure. They understand what is happening. They can predict what is the next step of the day. It also helps our children who may have difficulties with transitions. It helps them feel safe and knowing what is next in their day. I know that if I say this out loud, many of our caregivers in the audience will know that you are probably bombarded with a lot of questions at some point, right? What's for dinner? Where are we going? Who are you talking to? What are we going to do today? What am I going to wear? You probably have a lot of these questions that come to you all the time, and you probably get them from your teenagers as much as you get them from your little ones. And so what we know is that one of those benefits of having a routine is they understand what is that next step. And it helps them to feel confident and understand and reduce that pressure of wondering what is the next thing that's going to happen. The second slide, it really has a conversation about, it helps to reduce and eliminate those power struggles. Does this mean that it eliminates all tantrums forever? Absolutely not. Those are going to happen. Those are normal. That's a part of what we get as caregivers, right? But it does help to reduce that struggle with those power struggles with our children, because they understand, again, what is the next process in their day. It helps to eliminate those disagreements because children already know what to expect. You have something that is in place already. So for instance, if your child is really insistent on going to the park, rather than arguing and having a battle with them about should we go to the park, we can just let them know, let's check our schedule and see when are we going to the park. It also helps them to understand a timeline. For our younger children, they have a difficult time understanding the difference between 30 minutes and an hour, or what's today or what was yesterday. They're still learning about timeframes. And so showing our children the schedule that we have helps to eliminate that power struggle. The third benefit that we're going to take a look at is that routines help children just participate in family activities. We know the importance of children engaging in their learning, of reading and writing, but also just engaging with family, having to learn those positive social cues, learning how to get along with others, learning how to share. And so part of having these routines in place helps in ensuring that our children are able to practice these family activities. They're able to feel as though they're contributing as a member of the family, and it helps them have that sense of belonging. And it can honestly start when they're very young. A little bit further into today's presentation, we're going to have a conversation of how that is seen. But just know, as little as they can start, your child starts walking, we're able to engage them in family activities. Maybe it's putting on music and it's time to clean up, and everybody has an active role of cleaning up the house. Or maybe it's time for everyone to do a cool down activity. It's time to put away our phones and our iPads. Let's do something that's calming, maybe read a book or do a puzzle. So helping have that routine helps them increase that family bonding time. The fourth benefit that we've seen is that routines also help parents and caregivers maintain clear and consistent expectations. As we discussed earlier, a lot of our time, our children really are interested in knowing what's going on, what are we doing? And they might ask us a lot of questions, but if we're very clear and consistent with our expectations, with our routines, it helps them to really understand what it is that needs to be done for the day. And a lot of it is our children are our mirrors. They follow what we do. And so in order for us to make sure our children are following with routines and schedules, we also want to encourage them to see how we're doing it, so we do it as well. And they're more likely and more inclined to do it as well. And making sure that we provide a lot of labeled praises when they do follow. Especially for our younger children, it is really difficult to provide them a task that's more than 3 things, because by the time you get to the 4th thing, they've already forgotten it. I can tell you that it probably for some of us adults, that's also a challenge too. So we want to make sure that we are very concise and clear of what is it that we are expecting of our children to do. And we're providing them with that positive praise when they do complete it. On the next slide, we can see that regular routines also help children stay on schedule. So as we talked about, those routines are those small building blocks to help us have those steps in order to achieve our schedule for the day. And the main goal is to help make sure that our children get done what they need to get done, right? That's waking up in the morning, getting ready, having to go to school, having to participate in the things that we do at home, getting ready for bed, and then going to sleep. So what we really see is that the more routines that are in place for children, the easier it is for them to keep on schedule. We know it's the beginning of the school year, and a lot of our teachers work very diligently to make sure that their classroom has their schedules and their routines in place as well. And so if our children are coming into school and have never been exposed to routines or schedules, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to learn how to follow those routines and those schedules. So it's incredibly important to have something in place as well as home. So that way, when our students and our children are transitioning from home and school, it's not that jarring for them to transition in between both settings. It also helps us with making sure that they're going to sleep on time. And I'm sure every caregiver in this audience can agree that television or screen time is something we constantly battle with at some point. So it also helps us set that in place for them and helps us have more control of those televisions and screen time for our children. In the next page, we can also see that routines help children just, again, feel in control. Something that I like to think of is, imagine when we first heard about the pandemic about 18 months ago, right? A year and a half ago. And what were your initial thoughts when you got the news? If you have older children in school and they announced to you that your children were going to go home for 2 weeks and we're going to find out more. And just sit and think about that for a moment. How did you feel when you got that news? When you got that news from your job, or you got that news hearing from your neighbors? I'm sure I wasn't the only one who had a lot of questions that were going around. What does that mean? Where is school going to take place? How are we going to do this? What does that mean I have to work from home? So many questions come up, and sometimes it doesn't help that we don't feel that we're in control of what's happening because we're not sure of what's happening. Our children experience that exact same feeling when they're not sure how their day looks like. Again, children have a hard time, especially our younger children, understanding time. And so 30 minutes for them might seem like a long, long time. And so what we want to do is help to provide those routines in place, because it helps them to feel in control of what's happening, and it helps manage their worries, their wonderings, and their questions. Lastly, in the next page, we can see that routines also allow children to develop a sense of independence, which is the key of being resilient. And so we want to highlight that, again, even though this is something that is really important for our younger students, we can see why this is beneficial to have even for our students and our children that are already in high school or middle school, because we want them to learn these great independent skills to help them increase those resiliency that they already have. And so I want you to just take a moment and think about, what does resiliency mean to me? And how does this help our children with everyday challenges that they may encounter? We know that not everything goes according to plan. I think this pandemic is a good example of that, right? Not everything goes to the same routine. Not everything goes in schedule. So sometimes it's really great to be able to model and teach to our children, how do we adapt and how do we overcome when things don't go as planned as well. In the next slide, we are going to watch this clip that goes over a little bit more in depth for structure and routines. And I believe everything should be working fine. And Liz is going to do us that favor and play that. So enjoy.
Works for your family. Think of all the things that should be part of the routine and in what order they is all the things we do in our homes to make our children feel safe and comfortable. Routines can help us add structure to our homes.
Structure definitely helps kids feel safe and secure because it helps them understand what's coming next. It helps make their lives more predictable.
There are 4 steps to creating a routine. Step 1. Identify a routine that works for your family. Think of all the things that should be part of the routine and in what order they should occur. It may be helpful to create routines around key times of the day, such as getting ready for bed or meal times. Keep in mind that the routine should work for the whole family and not just your child.
So it is important that we take time as parents and make a plan or a schedule or structure, something that we agree on so that, again, in the moment, that makes it easier to access those particular strategies that you as parents want to use.
Step 2. Explain the routine. Make sure your child knows what you want him to do and when you want him to do it. Simple charts with pictures can help your child remember what to do. Young children may also need to be told and reminded what to do. Step 3. Follow the routine. Your child may not always want to follow the routine, especially when it means ending playtime or going to bed. It may also be difficult for you as a parent to always follow the routine. It may be harder when you are tired or stressed. Whenever possible, stick to the routine. This will help your child know what you want and do what you ask.
Kids will challenge and test structure, and I think part of parenting is thinking about what's happening and why it's happening. And sometimes kids will challenge structure or refuse to do something to kind of test a system.
Step 4. Use consequences. If your child resists following the routine, remind him there may be a consequence. For instance, say, if you don't come to the dinner table, you will not have playtime tonight. You can also try rewarding your child for following the routine. Be consistent with the routine and let your child know you expect it to be followed. A tip to keep in mind when using structure: just because you have a routine doesn't mean that you can't be flexible and do other things when something comes up. When the routine changes, let your child know about the change. This will help your child know what is happening and what you want them to do.
It's this balance between creating structure and not creating a level of rigidity that doesn't allow kids to explore, that doesn't allow for unexpected things to happen either to you or to your kid.
Having structure helps your child understand what you want him to do, which can lead to good behavior.
So we showed that video because sometimes it helps us to learn in different ways. We had been lecturing and showing you information on the screen, and we hope that the video clip helped to clarify some of the concepts that we just discussed about schedule and routines. Now, we also in classes and at home, when you notice that your child is starting to get fidgety or having problems focusing, it helps to take short little breaks with the expectation that when we come back from the break, we're going to be able to refocus ourselves. So we have something called a make energy, 1, 2, 3, clap. What we're going to do, and I want everybody to participate so you can experience this, and then you can do this with your child at home. We open our arms wide and we actually go 1, 2, 3, clap. Clap your hands, rub quickly. You're going to feel the heat. We're going to call that heat energy. And you're going to put that the first time on your belly, second time on your head, and we breathe. So we did 1, 2, 3, clap. Put your hands on your head or wherever you feel like you need energy, and take a deep breath like a bear. Breathe out. We're going to do that again. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3. Feel the energy in your hands. Put that on your belly or wherever you feel like you need some energy to help you right now. Take a deep breath. Hold that and release. And now we're going to move on to our next section, which is on resiliency. Next page. And we have the question, what is resilience? In life, things happen that can set people back, challenge them, or overwhelm them. They might feel like even giving up. But for resilient people, the same things can happen, but they're able to more quickly recover, or we call that bounce back from those same events. It used to be thought that you had to be born resilient with that ability inside of you to quickly recover from life events. But now researchers have found out that there are ways of learning how to become resilient so that life events don't overwhelm you and you can learn to recover. And this pandemic of the last year and a half has been one long, challenging event for many people. And it continues to test us in our daily lives. How we recover from the challenges that we may face depends on the supports that we have in place and how we prepare ourselves to be more resilient. And at the same time, we're modeling for our children resilience in our own life, showing our children how they can handle situations in their own life also. Next page. So characteristics of a resilient child. A child or a person who has resilience can have these characteristics. A resilient person or child has a better way of overcoming challenges than a person who is not resilient in the face of the same life events. So they learn to have a better sense of their own identity, of who they are and their own capabilities. They are able to act independently, think on their feet, think about what needs to happen in response to different issues that come up in life. And they can make changes in their own environment so that they can better tolerate what's happening around them. Next page. Strategies to help children be successful at routines. So, as you read the strategies above, you might think to yourself, but this is all about me as a parent. I have to be patient. I have to be consistent. I have to make time to take care of myself. And I have to have age-appropriate expectations. And you wonder maybe why and how does that help my child be more successful? But actually, that's kind of the secret that we all know about but tend to forget. As a parent, we have to prepare ourselves first so our children can be successful with the routines. It's kind of like if you've ever been on an airplane and the flight attendant talks about, well, if we're in an emergency, the oxygen mask will fall from the roof, and adults, please put your oxygen mask on first before you try to put your child's on, because if you try to do your child's first, chances are you're going to pass out or be injured before you can help your child. So from the flight attendant we learn first take care of ourselves, then take care of our child. Otherwise, we're not going to be good at for either of us. So, and then the last part of this is age appropriate expectations. A lot of times, we're not always sure exactly what that is. And we're going to go into that in more detail on the next page. Good. So here are some examples of for different age groups of what we can expect our children to do at home. Having these chores be part of their daily routines helps them learn to be responsible, more independent, and how to be part of the family. And I say this because it's important. Earlier, we heard them talk about we don't do a schedule or a bedtime or a dinner time just for the child. We have to come up with something that works for the whole family. And the child is included in on that. And that's the same for chores. You know, as young as 2 years old, children learn how to put their toys away. They can help with folding socks or even just matching socks. And actually, that's something when they get into kindergarten is an important part of their mathematical learning, is identifying patterns. So learning to put this sock with this sock because that matches, it's a pair. Or this sock does not go with this sock. Red does not go with blue. That's not a pair. Matching is learning. And dusting low tables. This also helps with fine motor skills. Picking something up from the table and dusting underneath it, putting it back down, clearing things off at their height is going to help them get into the routine of being part of the family, keeping things clean. And sometimes as parents, we don't think about what's the next chore. We might get a little bit stuck in a mental mindset of they're too young to do that. That's too difficult for them. But the thing is, if they only ever do what's easy at home, they don't get challenged to learn how to do the more difficult things. And in school, we're constantly trying to challenge them. And if we're doing that at home also, it gives them a sense of believing in themselves and believing in their ability of moving to that next level. So for example, between the ages of 5 and 7, we can start expecting our children to make the bed, to feed their pets. That's a huge responsibility. Same way that we feed and take care of the family, our child can be expected to feed and take care of the family pets. Also, again, learning how to set the table. They're not going to get in any of these things the first time. They may not get it exactly right. To us as our parents, what we think is the standard of how it needs to be done. But it's important to praise them for the pieces that they do get right and to make them feel good about what they can do. And then the next time you can work with them and talk to them about, oh, and this is how we do this part. You did this part good. Praise is an important part of learning how to do new things, but you want it to be specific praise, specific to what they're doing. You did a good job lining up the fork with the plate. Thank you. I like how you put the cup down in the right place today. That all matches beautifully. Good job. Next time, I'm going to help you also learn how to fold napkins or whatever it is. That is the next step in what your family does for whatever chore you're teaching your child. And then by the time they're going to 7 to 11 years old, for example, they can help with things that's really going to help you out in the family too. Things like emptying the dishwasher, vacuuming, changing the bed sheets. All of this has to do with them physically growing up and developing more muscles, muscle control, because not all children when they're young don't have that muscle control or sometimes the strength to move a vacuum back and forth, which is why they often start with sweeping when they're younger. And again, these list of chores is just a small list. There's so many others and it's so many other examples that you can use for chores in the family. And you as a parent know your children best and will have an idea of what they're capable of. But just remember to keep challenging to the next step. And as we go to the next page, we're going to be looking at some chores for older children. And we did have this question earlier in the Q&A of what age group this presentation is for. And we're showing here in the chart of how, as children grow, what kinds of abilities they can have. So in 11 to 14 years of age, they can help more with doing the laundry, not just folding it, help with putting away the groceries, which takes learning where they go in the kitchen, moving things around so that the oldest stuff is in front, new stuff goes in the back. Also taking out the trash. That's another chore, depending on where you live, how safe it is, and how confident you feel in your child's ability to do that. And then as they're even older, 15 and older, maybe even younger than that, they can help with cleaning out the refrigerator, mowing the lawn, or even running some errands for you to help take the load off of your role in the family so that your child can help be a stronger contributor within the family. Okay, so, and as you're making these schedules and as you're creating chores, you also want to have that be a conversation between you and your child, because in many cases, when your child's input is asked for, they're going to be more likely to contribute and to be part of the process. I'm sorry, let me say that the right way. When they are, your child is part of the process, they're more likely to want to contribute and be a part of it. If you just tell them what they're doing, they feel like, why should I do this? It gives them more of a sense of wanting to say no. And Wendy's going to go more into details with that in the next section as we go to the next page.
Thanks, Anita. So if you don't mind, if we go back just one more slide. Thank you so much, Liz. So as Anita was talking to us a little bit about what are some things that they can do, I also want you to just take a moment to reflect on, again, what is it that we can do at home? A lot of the things that we can do vary from our house to house, and it doesn't mean that one is wrong and one is right. So just think about what is something that your family values and what is something that you would be interested in doing in your home that you can do this afternoon. As Anita mentioned, it's promoting that positive reinforcement with those labeled praises. And understanding that, especially for not only our little ones, but our older ones too, they need that positive reinforcement and those labeled praises as much as our little ones. And ensuring that we have that time in that space where they are going to probably not do so great that first time, right? The first time they make that bed, I really hope you don't expect that it's going to look like you were staying at a nice fancy hotel. It's probably going to be a little bit disheveled, but we really want to reinforce that they were doing it and that they did a really good job with their efforts in doing that. Thank you so much. So on the next page, we're going to look at a couple of visual cues and models that help to support this. If you go into any kind of classroom, more often than not, you will see that the teacher's walls are covered with visuals. There's more often than not a schedule that is already there that's easy to see. Even our high schoolers, there's always a schedule that's there. Their bell schedule is posted at some point of the wall or the whiteboard. For our little ones, there's lots of pictures and cutouts. As Anita mentioned, we showed a video clip earlier because there's so many different types of learners out there. I, for one, am someone who is a visual learner. So I love seeing things because it helps me really process what is happening or what someone is saying. And so for our smaller children who are still learning the foundational skills of letters and word recognitions, it's really helpful to have these pictures accompanied with what you're doing at home. And so on the screen here, you can see that there's just a couple of examples of what you can do to show some routines and some schedules, helping them be in charge of checking what it is that they've already done, so they know what's their next step. Again, and remembering the younger our children are, it's making sure we give them a task one at a time. Because if we provide them a task, a list of tasks, that's more than even 2, sometimes 3 or more, they might forget what the first task was. So making sure that when we set up these routines, it's them being able to check it off kind of like a checklist. So then they're able to get a hang of it. On the next page, you can see that there are some low cost ways to really set up these schedules and routines at home. We don't have the luxury of having a classroom at home, right? I think we all have been really utilizing our home space. And so a lot of the times we might not have these big, beautiful walls that our classrooms have to put up these visuals, and that's okay. Really what you could use for just your schedule is using a piece of paper, just an 8x11. And we talked earlier about how we are our children's mirrors. And when they see that we are engaging in utilizing different tools, they do that as well. So if they see that we follow a schedule, they're more than likely to follow that schedule as well. So it's nice not only to have a schedule for one child, but every child, and it can look different, and that's okay. It's also nice to have your own schedule and have your child see it so they understand that this is something that everyone does at some point. It's also helpful, as Anita had mentioned earlier, is we really want to help our children develop these early independent skills. So if they see that your schedule is up and maybe this is a time where you cannot be bothered for whatever reason, they can start to get the hang of looking it up and knowing, okay, right now I can't ask this, but I can ask when they're done at this time. For the routines, what's really helpful is starting to make with just one piece of paper. You can cut them up to 3, up to 6 squares, and engage with your child with what is it that we do every morning? What is something that every single person does every morning? So we wake up, right? So have that card ready. They can either draw it, that way they feel involved with it, because again, they're more likely to do it if they're involved in the activity. You can draw it if you want. If you feel really shy, you can use magazines or newspapers, or you can print some where you can cut out some clip arts to really go with that visual of what you're doing. Maybe as our kids are older, they probably don't need the visuals as much, but it's still fun to do. And for the examples that we have on the screen right now, right, they can see, okay, lunch is first, and then it's homework, and then after homework, we're going to clean up. Again, they're able to see these visual cues. These 3 cues are on my refrigerator, and they're just held up by magnets, and then you're able to interchange those cards, because again, in our home, we don't have these great big walls as we do in our classroom to be able to put those visuals up. So again, it helps our children to really see what the expectation is and have them be in charge of it. Okay, once we're done with the cleanup, what is the next 3 that we need to put up, and have it be an activity in which they join you. On the next slide, we can see of how long does it take? And the reality is it can take, we've heard it takes 21 days to break a habit, right? But we know that when it's tasks that are incredibly enjoyable, they happen a lot quicker. If it's tasks that requires some work, that might take a little longer. I like to think about if I want to get really healthy, and I'm like, I'm going to start going for a run every day. I personally don't really love running every day, as opposed to maybe someone who does. And so they can get up and run and they find it incredibly enjoyable. And I get up and run and I find it incredibly tedious. So it might take me longer to really get into the habit of it because I don't find it as enjoyable. And that's okay. But what's important to know is being consistent. That consistency is key for anything and everything. So we know that research has shown that it takes anywhere between 18 to 254 days for someone to form a brand new habit, and about 66 days for it to be automatic. So if you start to introduce these routines and these schedules, I implore you to be consistent, because I don't want to send up false hopes that today and tomorrow everything's going to be great. You're going to have some days where these routines and schedules following them are going to get easier. And there's some days that there's going to be some setbacks, and that's okay. And that's why it's really important, as Anita had mentioned earlier, that we are patient, not only for our children, but we're also patient with ourselves, that we take that time to reflect and to self-care, and that we take that time to model to them, making sure that consistency, we're modeling them that effort, and we're modeling to them the importance of practicing and communicating. So even though it's something as simple as routines and schedules and procedures, we know that we're teaching all of our children these vital life skills. And sometimes what makes the transitions a little bit harder are even during breaks, right? We can probably see this even now as our children are starting to return to in-person learning. It's changed that routine that we had, right before that. And so we want to make sure that as we get started on a new routine, we prepare our children a little bit more beforehand, because we know that transition, it's going to take them a while to get used to that change. We see that again, it takes anywhere from 18 to 254 days to start a new habit. If it's something that has been introduced before, the time window gets smaller and smaller. But that prep time is just as important. So, and the next slide will kind of review the objectives that we went through today. You know, it was a lot of information, but our hope is that we were able to have a conversation about how everyday routines can benefit your child's emotional and social development. We reflected on ways in which we can incorporate these routines and help to promote that resiliency within our children. And we also hope that we were able to provide some strategies that you're able to be successful at implementing routines and schedules at home. And so we're going to provide everybody a moment to be able to evaluate today's parent workshop, for today's Tech Talk, and we will put into the chat box the link of the eval. Again, we want to thank you for being here with us today. I'm going to pass it to Anita in just a little bit in case there's any Q&A that was really pertinent for us to highlight before we close for today. But again, beforehand, my name is Wendy Correas. I'm a psychiatric social worker with the Kindergarten Readiness Program, and I will pass this over to Ms. Anita Yusufian Adams to close us off.
Again, thank you everybody for being here, for making that time. So in a way, you have already started a schedule for yourself by making it important to attend this Tech Talk through LDA Central's PACE program and to learn something new that you can use at home. Think about the strategies we've learned today. We've tried to point them out as we go along of what you can work on with your child, hopefully this afternoon, like Wendy said. In the chat box, there is a parent workshops evaluation, and we take our evaluations very seriously. We love the feedback that we get from parents to see how we can fine tune this and even improve it more in the future. So please take a few minutes now. We've built the time into our workshop because we're planning to end at 4:30 so that you can take the few minutes to click on this link and fill it out in Spanish and or English so that we can take what you say, what you need, what you find helpful, and any improvements that you see that we can incorporate into this. Thank you for being here. We appreciate that. And we're available for any questions at this point also, and we'll be available till at least 4:30. And I want to thank everybody. We've gotten many questions in the Q&A, and we've been working hard to answer them as we're going along. There's another link in the chat for where this webinar can be found. It has been recorded, and I know some people had to leave early. So if you want to make a copy of that and share that with any of your neighbors or friends that you think that might be able to benefit them from this also, you have that you can share with them, that you can copy down onto your own desktop at this point. And when you click on that, you want to just remember to click on the YouTube icon at the top of the page, and then go to the Tech Talks and More playlist. And we'll be the most recent one at that point. Thank you for your feedback in the Q&A. Very good presentation. Thank them. I'm glad the information is helpful. We appreciate that very much. Some people have asked how you can contact us in the future for possible presentations. You can go through your administrator at your school. They'll know how to use your community rep or your PACE rep to facilitate any information like that. And again, there is the link in the chat at this point, but they can actually show this through Zoom at your school if you'd like. You're very welcome, everybody. We appreciate the feedback. And again, if you can click on the link for the evaluation, we even appreciate more of the detailed feedback. It's also good to know that we have new parents here today, that this is their first time learning about the PACE program in LD Central and learning about the links that we have and all the resources that PACE has for Central parents. And each district, each LD district has its own PACE coordinator and PACE program with resources for that area also. And there's a question about how to get the rest of the family involved in a new schedule for the kids. I think Wendy said it best. You want to work with the family in creating schedules. And if you noticed in one of her slides, there was dad's schedule, mom's schedule. It helps when we show our children that we do this too. The thing is that usually parents, our schedule is in our head. So writing it out so your child can see what you do and what your plans are helps them also then participate and use their own schedule, that they're not, and that they then know what to expect. And you just, with the adults in the family, you have to just talk to them about the importance of them, of this, of schedules, that you want to be a model for your child so that they can be more successful in not just at home, not just at school, but in life. Scheduling and figuring out what you need to do on a daily basis is being successful in life. And part of scheduling as the parent is also knowing when to put in flexibility, when to make exceptions, because the schedule and a routine is going to know what to expect, what helps to know what to expect on a daily basis. But as the parent, you're the authority in the family, and you know when it's time to make exceptions. So you know if your child wants to go to the park instead of do their homework, that you can say, well, go look at your schedule. Is it time to go to the park right now? no, that's not what we decided we do at this time. So go, and that takes you out of the equation. You tell your child, go look at the schedule. They can go, oh yeah, it's homework time. I'll get my homework done. Well, how about after I finish my homework? Can I go to the park then? And that's your choice, whether or not you do that. You can refer them back to the schedule. Well, what do we do after homework time? Or maybe you decide that a nice little surprise right now, a nice little reward is something good for your child, and you can be flexible and put that in. But again, that's up to you on how you want to do the schedule, when you want to put in flexibilities, and when you want to refer your child, no, we're sticking to the schedule today. And speaking of schedule, the schedules for the PACE meetings, I believe we have that link also that Ms. Teresa Areguin can put in the chat box if we just wait a moment, because there is a schedule for the tech talks and more. And that will be in, and you can also just look for it in the LAUSD website too. Parents, you have lots of great questions. I'm glad that this has gotten your mind thinking and wondering about what's next, what more can we do? We have just 3 minutes left. As a reminder, you should already be able to see the link, but I'm dropping in the link again for the parent workshop evaluation. If you want to click that and have that ready to fill out, if you're not finished at 4:30, you're welcome to save that link to complete a little bit later. But we will be looking at them, and we are looking forward to seeing what feedback we get from you. One parent says, thank you for your time today. Truly, we appreciate your time in coming here, in making this time to be able to pass this information and use this information at home. We love having our students be more successful. And I know parents, you're the ones that want the best for your child. And we know how much you want your child to be successful. So thank you for making the time to be here today. The PACE program is each district, sorry, I'll go back even more. So each district has a parent engagement program for parent outreach with resources and many things for the parents to use that are available in that community, in that area. Most schools have a PACE, a parent or community representative that works with the PACE program for community outreach and providing information even to that local school that comes through the PACE program. That's just a very general outline of what PACE is. And it is now 4:30. Thank you, parents, for being here. We are going to close this webinar. We all appreciate your time and take good care of yourselves and your family. Goodbye.